Hello, good evening. I'm live, apparently. Can everyone hear me? Hello? We're live. Aha, there we go. People, yay. Excellent, thank you very much. So, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you all are in the world. I'm here doing another live stream for the month of November. I hope everyone had a wonderful Halloween. I had a very entertaining Halloween. I went into Derry, which has an absolutely fantastic Halloween festival. It was they've been doing it for years. They've been doing it for since I was a kid, and probably before that. I'm not sure how long exactly they've been doing it, but for a city whose part of their coat of arms is a little skeleton sitting like this, it's quite fitting. But yeah, so it was fantastic. Oh, I'll just put that on silent. But yeah, so I dressed up as No Face from Spirited Away. It was a lot of fun. It was like this tall. It was about well into kind of 7.5, 8 feet tall, and it was quite terrifying. And wandering around the streets, people were genuinely freaked out, which was a lot of fun. They were all just like looking straight up and seeing my freaky face. If anyone would like to see that costume, it's on my Instagram page. You can go over and see it on John D. Ruddy on Instagram. But yeah, so that was a very entertaining evening. How was your Halloween? Let me know. Let's see who's about here. Hello, John. One thing first, I love your channel. Thank you. Nutria42. I'm making a medieval board game and making character cards based on your style. If you please help me draw a medieval knight on your video style. Well, if you're making a board game based on my style, could be some copyright infringement. Just saying. Let's have a look here. I was on holiday, so no Halloween. Well, it's Halloween whether you like it or not. We don't celebrate Halloween in Finland. Oh, that's fair enough. For anyone who doesn't know, Halloween actually, because there's a lot of people who think that Halloween is a North American thing, but it's a lot of the festival actually did originate in Ireland. Icha Hauna, as it was, Samhain, as it's kind of commonly known as well. It was the one night of the year where the spirits could come back to Earth for one night and one night only. It was also seen as the Celtic New Year, so people would burn bonfires or bone fires, is where the word properly comes from, to make sacrifices to the gods to make sure that the wrong demons didn't come back. It's quite a fun evening. Hi, John. Was the next video to come? Yes. Well, I'm working on several videos at the moment. I've been working on a few videos for my other channel, John D. Ruddy Does Stuff. I have just reached 500 subscribers on that channel, so thank you anybody from here who has subscribed, and if you haven't subscribed, go and subscribe. I was talking about Dark Crystal, Age of Resistance. I was carving a Darth Vader pumpkin carving pumpkins is something that I love to do. If I can manage to do it every year for Halloween, that's what I try to do, because pumpkins, they're a joy to carve whenever you can do it right. Some of you might have seen when I posted up a couple of days ago, the pumpkin that I did of Smaug the Terrible. It was illustration from The Hobbit that was based on John Howe illustration, and I carved it into a pumpkin. That was back in, I think, 2013, and it was insanely detailed, and I'm not sure if I'll ever be able to top that. I kind of feel like my pumpkin carving skills have peaked at that, unless I was getting paid to do it, because that pumpkin took 11 hours. It took, what I like to think of, it took me halfway into season 2 of Breaking Bad. That was when I first watched Breaking Bad. Yeah, so that was a fun day. But as soon as I finished it, I sent a photo of it to John Howe, and he was still in New Zealand at the time, working on Desolation of Smaug was coming out later that year, and he was like, "Oh wow, that's really cool. Do you mind if I post it onto my Facebook?" And I was like, "Sure, why not?" So that was kind of fun. John Howe is one of my favorite illustrators. Do I have any John Howe artwork up in the background that you can see? No, but you can see the where is it? There, my Lord of the Rings and Hobbit collection of Blu-rays. So within those, there's some John Howe artwork. Let's see. I haven't made a video about Bulgaria yet. No, that's true. I haven't. I must look into that. John, why don't you open a stream group so we can play games? It would be awesome. Can you do that here? I'm not quite sure of all of the technology, I'll be quite honest. One thing that I am planning on doing is I have just ordered my capture card, because I'm going to start doing some videos of me playing some old retro games which I played growing up. So there'll be all sorts of video games, such as I'll not give them all away, but I mean, you'll have the classics. You'll have Sonic the Hedgehog, which I still love to play. There'll be a lot of Game Boy games which I played, so I'll be playing through some of those, and these are all going to be and then my all-time favorite game on the Sega Mega Drive, or Genesis if you're in North America. My favorite game on that is Rocket Knight Adventures. I have been wanting to talk about that game for so long. So I think I may have to do a video on that. So all of those video game related videos will be on John D. Ruddy Does Stuff. Keeping this channel mainly for the Manny Man Does History animated videos. And from that, we'll go beyond. But I am, speaking of Manny Man Does History, I'm currently working on a video. I can't tell you too much about it. There's a little bit more animation involved, and it's collaboration with somebody else. And Manny Man will be a little bit more animated than he is usually. So I'm looking forward to that. It's something a little bit different. Not specifically history related, but it's Manny Man, and it should be done, fingers crossed, by the end of November. And then what else? Loads. Oh yeah, and then in December, it's another history video, which I'm hoping to have done before Christmas, which is mad to think that we're this far into the year that it's almost over already. Let's see. I carved a. Is it true that you made a video on the Irish Troubles? It's an interesting topic. I heard. Yes, I have. Well, I've done I've done two videos that can. Well, I've a couple of videos have touched on the Troubles. Mainly, it's a very early video of mine, which was um, a brief history of the Troubles in the north of Ireland, and it starts. That was actually a commissioned piece from Queen's University Belfast, and they'd seen my original History of Ireland video and wanted an adaptation of that, and then just expanded on all the things to do with Ulster. So that was fine. I did that. And then through that, there was a lot of things covered in the Troubles in that. And then one of my more recent ones about the Northern Ireland border, there's elements of the Troubles mentioned in that. But it is something that I want to do because the Queen's video, because it was a commission piece, there were certain elements of it that weren't exactly my style. That I do want to tackle the Troubles more specifically at some point and give a real kind of chronology of events a little bit more. Let's see. Hey, John, when did you get interested in history? Says Alex Gochev. I got interested in history a long time ago. I suppose there's a lot of different ways that I got into history. It's a very multifaceted question. Yumi Dude, this is my full-time job, just saying. I suppose always as a kid, watching movies, there was always elements of kind of history in some of those. When I was in school, I was always fascinated with like the ancient civilizations, like, you know, the ancient Greeks and Romans and Vikings and Egyptians. I know Vikings technically aren't ancient, but you know what I mean? All these different different things. And then I think I lost my passion a little bit for it as it kind of headed towards the 19th and 20th century. And this may sound really silly, but I think it's partially because, just risk a little more light. I think it's partially because there are less and less illustrations and more black and white photos. And this may sound really silly, but I suppose I was just kind of put off a lot of the black and white photos when I was a kid, and it just looked boring to me, which is partially the reason as well why I make these videos, because I want to show that there is no difference. Like, I always felt like the world was in black and white at that point, but obviously it wasn't. So, and of course, you know, in the 18th century backwards, it's all illustrations or, you know, sometimes lithographs, but you've got loads of paintings and different things like that. But more and more so, the primary sources from the 19th and early 20th century are black and white photos. And there's some fantastic people online who actually colorize these photos, and it's amazing. And occasionally I'd use some of those for reference for whenever I'm doing my color illustrations. They're very, very useful. But yeah, one of my things that I suppose was almost like a proto love of history. When I was a teenager, I was a massive fan. Well, I still am a massive fan. As I said, there's Lord of the Rings, and just below it is Star Wars. I was a massive fan of Star Wars when I was a teenager. I collected a series of magazines called the Official Star Wars Fact File, where by the end of it, it ran for a couple of years. And by the end of it, I had 6 binders full of Star Wars stuff. And one bit that always really fascinated me was the battles and events section. And all the other ones, I would list them in, I would put them into alphabetical order. But the battles and events section made a lot more sense to put it in chronological order. And even then, I found the chronology of that to be really to be really fascinating, and seeing how these things change over time. And like looking at the Great Hyperspace War, which happened 5,000 years before the Battle of Yavin, and just seeing all these different things that that lead. And then I suppose that was my love of history, but it was a fictional history. And the same with Lord of the Rings as well. I was fascinated with the chronology of, like with the first age, the second age, and third age, and what happened within those periods, and how one thing led to the next, So whenever I studied education and I rediscovered history, that ended up becoming my new thing, and I transferred a lot of that love for the chronology of Star Wars. And well, because I suppose in more recent years as well, the chronology of Star Wars kind of went out the window a little bit when Disney bought them. Kind of felt like a whole pile of history books got burnt, or at least relabeled into legends. But I was able to I was able to find that love within real history, and of course that knowledge is a lot more useful, and is also copyright free when it comes to talking about them, when it comes to telling stories about history, and it informs our world. So that is how I learned to love history in a very roundabout way. Let's see, what else? What have we got in the comments? The board game will never be posted. It'll be just played for me and my friends. Oh, well, if that's the case, if it's just a private thing, then have fun. I didn't mean to be leaping on you in that regard. As San Nutria. But yeah, by all means, if you hunt through my videos, I'm sure you'll find there are a couple of knights in there. If you look hard enough, you'll just have to find them. Let's see. John, do you agree that the Pacific Front was more boat and plane battle and island fights? More than what? Do you agree the Pacific Front was more boat and plane battle and island fights than the European front? Well, I'd imagine so. I mean, Europe was so predominantly land-based. I would imagine, off the top of my head, that the Pacific Front, I mean, it's a giant ocean, so it would be much more heavily involved with boats, planes, and islands. But yeah. On World War II videos, you gloss over Czechoslovakia. That is true. There's a lot of things that I gloss over, unfortunately. But such is the nature of making a very short video. At least Czechoslovakia gets a mention. Now, there are loads of other countries that I'm well aware of that I don't even mention directly. That is one of the dilemmas. That is one of the tricky parts in writing these videos. And of course, that's not necessarily saying that nobody's history is unimportant. Not in the slightest. It's more so just there are certain kind of particularly with World War II, which is so big and expansive, and particularly in the very, very first video that I did about World War II, I was looking at the turning points, and even at that, I missed one of the big turning points in that being the Battle of Stalingrad. But Yeah, that is unfortunately one of the difficulties whenever you're kind of painting with broad strokes sometimes. But I haven't been to Slovakia, but I have been to the Czech Republic. I've been to a lot of beautiful places in the Czech Republic, mainly in the northwest of Czech Republic. I've been in Prague, I've been in Karlovy Vary, I've been in Mariánské Lázně, I've been in Děčín, right up along the German border. Where else have I been? I've been in Pecpoštěžka. I've been at the top of Snežka, which is the highest mountain in the Czech Republic. It's right along the Polish border. So yeah, beautiful country. I was in Karlstein as well. There's an interesting figure I'd love to do a video on. Actually, he's Karl the Fourth, Charles the Fourth, I think. I'll have to double check, but yeah, I'd love to do more. I'm looking forward to doing more medieval stuff, or kind of late medieval, early Renaissance stuff as well. There's something about that that's been drawing me in for a while now, so I think that is definitely close on the cards. Let's see. Have you ever watched Waterloo? I heard it's a very historical movie. I've never seen it. No. Judging by the name of it, it sounds very historical. Whether or not it's historically accurate is another question. But who's to know? Do you believe that the poor economic conditions of the United Kingdom following the First and Second World Wars were important in catalyzing Ireland's pursuit of independence? Well, maybe not after the Second World War, because Ireland was already independent at that point, at least for the most part. I mean, yeah, it is quite a multifaceted question, and there's a lot of politics, a lot of very well timed actions, because at the beginning of World War One, most Irish sentiment in Ireland, Irish sentiment in Ireland, obviously, but towards the war was the kind of British line of go off and fight for king and country. And a lot of people were kind of happy with the status quo. I mean, Home Rule was on its way in the British Parliament for Ireland, and when the Irish Volunteers most of them signed up to go and fight in the trenches. Now the figures mightn't be 100% accurate here, but it was something like 18,000 of the Irish Volunteers went off and fought in the trenches, whereas only about 2,000 were the splinter group that ended up organizing the Easter Rising. So I mean, World War One as a whole was a complete catalyst. But I suppose it's quite interesting too, because one doesn't know if World War One hadn't have happened, would the Easter Rising have happened, or would Irish Home Rule have kind of placated more? So it is a very interesting one, but I would imagine there were elements of poor conditions. Although, that being said, early independent Ireland was a very poor country. And early independent Ireland, people lived in poverty. And it wasn't like whenever Ireland became independent, it wasn't this great game changer. There were long decades of hardship for multiple reasons. Not just because you had because you had the likes of hospitals and schools in particular, which all of that, which would have been British regimes, all of a sudden, all of that was gone. And so the likes of the Catholic Church stepped in there to take up management of schools and hospitals. And that had its place in Irish history as well, unfortunately. Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, it was great that there was someone there to pull it up, but unfortunately, a lot of the abuse that went along with it wasn't so good. Let's see. I was in at the Awakening of the Walls, and there were hairy guys all spooky and stuff, and I decided to say Merry Christmas to them. So he decided to give chase. Oopsie. Well, one never knows what hooded characters are during Halloween. But yeah, the Awakening of the Walls. I saw some photographs. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go into it. For anyone who doesn't know, there was a massive the festival in Derry. They had these massive, spectacular lighting shows and all sorts of like monsters and various decorations of the walls. Derry has one of Europe's only complete sets of defensive walls still in existence. They were built in the 1610s, and they're a very impressive set of walls, and they're really cool. I love walking the entire lap of them. It's a really cool set of walls. And indeed, it is known as the Maiden City because those walls have never been penetrated. Let's see. Ever been to Glasgow? I have been to Glasgow. No, but I've been to Edinburgh and Montreal. But yes, no, I actually have been to Glasgow. Woken up Sucky Hall Street on a Saturday night, although that's not much of a Glasgow accent. But yeah, oh no, I have been to Glasgow on several occasions. Sometimes just passing through. I was on my way to Edinburgh, and then occasionally I stayed there back in about 2005, I think it was, which was a great place. I love Glasgow. Glasgow's a good spot. I've been up in Moodiesburn, which was an experience. Good times. Let's see. Well, I actually have connections in Scotland. My dad actually grew up in Paisley, so it does in many ways kind of feel like a home away from home in some ways. I have this bizarre thing where I hear people with a Paisley accent, and I automatically think that they're related to me because growing up, anyone with a Paisley accent was related to me. So whenever I'm actually in Paisley, I just feel like everyone's related to me. It's really strange. Can you do a video on the German U-boats? Ja, das ist richtig. Yeah, that would be great. Has anyone in the stream watched Das Boot? It's a great film, brilliant soundtrack, and yeah, phenomenal depiction of German U-boats during World War II. Yummy dude, what is your favorite soccer team? My favorite soccer team is Wolverhampton. And if anyone can tell me why my favorite team is Wolverhampton, then good for you. You're going to watch 1917? It's very rare that Hollywood decides to greenlight a film about World War I, World War II. Oh, I am not aware of this film. Let me consult Google. (1917) 1917 is a 2019 film. That's not confusing. Upcoming British-American war film directed by right, Sam Mendes. Oh wow. Fantastic. The film is based part on the account told to Mendes by his paternal grandfather. Oh yeah. Oh, I'm totally going to see that. Wow, that looks fantastic. No, let